Boa noite, galera. Marcos Alac falando aqui no Instagram Mundo Tri. Hoje uma edição especial aí do Papo KaBeça, que eu tô fazendo desde o ano passado, fazendo aqui pelo Mundo Tri, pela oportunidade de aprender com o nosso convidado. Vamos conversar hoje com Jim Miller. Ele é o coach, é o número 1 da Federação Americana de Ciclismo, a USA Cycling, um treinador super gabaritado, com 5 medalhas olímpicas, 3 medalhas de ouro no contrarrelógio, vários títulos de campeonato mundial em diferentes modalidades do ciclismo, na pista, no contrarrelógio, também no mountain bike. Atualmente ele treina a campeã do circuito mundial de mountain bike, a Kate Courtney. Então vamos ter a oportunidade hoje de conversar um pouco com ele. Eu conheci o Jim Miller o ano passado nos Estados Unidos, no Summit do Training Peaks. Ele já está na sala, vamos colocar ele aí para a gente bater um papo e aprender um pouco com o treinador dos campeões. Eu vou traduzindo a conversa enquanto ela acontece, o inglês um pouco enferrujado. Se der uma engasgada. Hey Jim!
We're here.
We're here. Are you in Colorado?
I'm in Colorado, yeah, Colorado Springs.
Colorado. I went to the incline when I was at the summit last year.
Yes.
Cody, he told me you must go to see the incline, and it was amazing.
Did you go up it?
Yes, I did.
It's fantastic, isn't it? The hardest.
Yes, fantastic. The hardest smile in the world. Jim, I will translate our conversation as we speak. So, okay? I think it's best for the audience. Alright? So, então eu falei com o Jim aqui, agradeci a oportunidade e tive na cidade dele. Ele está no Colorado, em Colorado Springs, e lá tem o incline, para quem não conhece. How many steps, Jim? The incline é uma escadaria com vários degraus.
Something.
5,000, yes. And it's like a peregrination spot. Everybody goes there. People from all ages.
Yes.
É uma escadaria que tem lá, all sizes, yes. Uma escadaria que tem lá com mais de 5.000 degraus, que as pessoas de todas as idades, tamanhos vão lá nesse lugar para fazer a escalada. And Jim, you told me that you have a special place in your heart for Brazil. You won your 3rd gold medal here.
That's right. Yes, Rio. I love Rio. Love Sao Paulo as well.
Okay.
Ele falou, people are beautiful. They're fun. The night in Rio is always loud. It's just a fantastic place.
Yeah, great. Eu falei com ele que ele tem um lugar especial, o Rio. Ele falou para mim, no coração dele, o Brasil, né? Ele ganhou a 3ª medalha olímpica aqui. You came from a family with coaches. I saw you saying that on a podcast, right? Your father was a coach, and your grandfather was also a coach. And we have a big difference from Brazil and United States. Here in Brazil, it's a college major to become a coach. In the US, that's not the same. So what is your major?
Yeah, my major was exercise physiology. So I learned, I studied physiology. I actually thought that I'd end up going to medical school or something like that, pre-med. But I always liked sport. Sport always attracted me.
Yeah, great. Eu falei da diferença, né, galera? Que aqui no Brasil a gente tem que fazer uma faculdade voltada para ser treinador. Nos Estados Unidos não é essa a realidade. Eu perguntei para ele qual era a faculdade dele, que acaba que é totalmente linkada com o esporte, a fisiologia do exercício. And I saw that you hold a very tight aspect that exercise must be fun so that we can build a champion. And I thought that maybe you learned that also in your family, right?
Yeah. Sport was growing up. Sport was always part of our family and what we did. And my brother was also played sports. My dad coached sports. We just always had fun with it. When I started coaching, initially I didn't have fun with it at all. It wasn't the coach that I wanted to be. I screamed and yelled a lot. And literally one day it was like, I would have hated to play sports for this guy. So I changed. I'm like, you know, you can have high standards, you can have high expectations, you can push and challenge, but you can also have fun with it. And as long as it's fun, then people tend to stick around and want to try and give you their best.
Eu coloquei para ele a questão do treinamento ser divertido, que eu vi ele tocar num desses pontos e perguntei se isso veio também dessa linha familiar de treinamento. Ele falou que quando ele iniciou os trabalhos como treinador, ele percebeu que ele não gostaria de ser treinado por ele mesmo, porque ele tinha essa expectativa, um alto nível, mas uma cobrança, ele gritava, ele era bastante intenso, e ele conseguiu encontrar esse equilíbrio entre this balance between performance, high standards, and also keeping it fun, e manter divertido. It's a fine line, right?
It's a very fine line.
Yeah.
But it's definitely possible.
Okay, and how do you see this moment, Jim? This very strange, weird moment for everyone. You have athletes, you are the head of coaching of USA Cycling. Everybody was pumped up, getting ready for the Olympics, and now it's postponed. How do you see this moment? How do we access training during this time?
You know, I think the most important thing is it's difficult for everybody. Nobody is just floating through this if there's no problems. Some days you're really motivated, some days you have no motivation. I think that the key to this period right now is being adaptable and flexible.
Ok. Ele falou que agora é um momento realmente difícil para todos. E todo mundo flutuando, dias bons, dias ruins, dias que a gente quer fazer. Então a chave para esse momento é ser capaz de se adaptar e estar flexível. And what are your thoughts on how without an A race on site or any race maybe, we don't know what's coming up, any race, how do we approach training? Como que a gente faz então para treinar sem ter nenhuma prova, nem A, nem B no horizonte?
Yeah, what I ended up doing was just saying, okay, with a little bit of logic, and we extrapolate down the road and you kind of see how Europe is recovering and we've seen how China's recovered. Maybe there's going to be some racing by August. So we basically just drew a line in the sand and said, okay, we'll be ready to race August 1st, and then just back training out from there. What it did was give our athletes a goal, so something they could focus on and start working towards. It also gives you as a coach a goal and something to start writing training against. I think, you know, with this COVID-19 virus, not only athletes were struggling, coaches also. How do you write training? What do you tell people? You give them we made jokes about base season 2.0, but we weren't really joking because it was like, it's hard to write training with no goals.
Yes, it's right. It's very hard, and I see many coaches struggling to recalculate and create a new ATP without no race on site.
Yeah.
Eu vou traduzir, I'll translate. Ele falou que realmente é um momento complicado para todo mundo e que ele criou uma linha onde ele queria estar pronto, com a expectativa do olhar para a Europa e para a China, deixar os atletas prontos para a partir de agosto estar apto a competir. Então, mas ele também, como treinador, coloca para a gente essa dificuldade de planejar, de criar objetivos e de realmente o que fazer, né? But it's a moment of opportunities also. So, what opportunities you found in this whole month, or maybe even already 2 months that we hit the pause button? What opportunities did you try to explore?
Yeah, I love that opportunities. I remember in 2008 in America, we had this small recession with the real estate bubble that burst. And I remember reading an article written about Warren Buffett, one of the richest guys in the world, biggest, largest investors of everything in the world. And he basically said that rich men don't get rich when the market is really high. Rich men get rich when the market's really low. And if you look for the opportunities when the market's really low, you'll find them. And when they come back up, you get rich. And I never forgot that, and I love that. And in this moment in time, there's a crisis, which means there's opportunity, and you have to find the opportunity. I think for each individual, the opportunity is different. I have some young athletes who go to school during the day. They have a very limited time to train until school's out with summer. But now they're out of school, and now they do school online. So they actually have a lot of time to train. And I'm like, now we have a chance to build a big base, do something we've never done for you, and prepare for the end of the season without races. So now they don't have to recover from races. And I'm like, what a golden opportunity to do this. Some of my other athletes, mountain bike athletes, it's a chance to go back and add more power in the gym and train more strength in the gym. Normally by this time of the year, they've turned the weights way down, and you're just in a maintenance cycle. So effectively, we're doubling the amount of time that they're in the weight room. So in theory, they should be stronger. We could never do that in a race season or a race cycle or a standard season cycle. So it was just an opportunity to get a little bit stronger.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think with each person, it's
okay. That's amazing.
We all know the problems, but you have to find the opportunities and the solutions.
Yeah. O que ele colocou pra gente foi que ele lembrou da crise americana, da bolha imobiliária, e de uma frase do Warren Buffett que ele falava que os homens ricos não ficam ricos quando a coisa tá boa, eles ficam ricos quando existe uma crise. Então, o olhar na crise, we as a coach always have depend on our pockets, right? So the opportunities on crisis, a oportunidade da crise também depende de quem é o atleta. Então, para os júniores, para os atletas mais jovens, a oportunidade de não estar na escola fazendo aula online, então aumentar um volume de treino, treinar um pouco mais. Já para os atletas de elite, os atletas do mountain bike, a oportunidade de estender a temporada com um trabalho de força, realmente colocando carga, porque nessa época do ano já teria baixado a carga do treino, então esse foco neuromuscular, então realmente depende. We here in Brazil, we struggle a bit finding new athletes. We don't have a school program so well organized as you guys have in the United States. And we also don't have very strong federations. Yeah, I would like to know, since you have worked with young children, young people for a very long time, and where do you find the future champions? How do they appear to USA Cycling?
Yeah, we do a bunch of development camps. We do a pretty decent job at talent ID, but I still think that cycling is one of those sports that's really peer driven, and that you ride a bike because your friend rode a bike, and you ride bikes together. You have fun. Your friend decides he's going to do a race, so you do the race with him, and you find the sport through social aspects. And then once you're in it, then you know with cycling or a triathlon, once you're in, you can't get out. You're hooked, and it's who you are and what you do. So it's not that different. I think I'll let you translate that, and then we'll go on.
Yeah. Ele toca muito na questão do aspecto social do ciclismo, que o ciclismo é um esporte de parceiros, essa coisa do meu amigo vai na prova, eu vou também, esse aspecto social. All right.
Yeah, and let me get my train of thought. When I grew up riding bikes, it was very much a mode of transportation. It's how you got around town. That's how you got to school. That's how you did anything. You went and saw friends. You had to ride your bike. Your parents weren't driving you. So for us, it was like a very normal thing and very socially acceptable. That's what everybody did. I think that, you know, when I was in Brazil, I saw a lot of kids on bikes. And I'm like, oh, this country could be huge with cyclists. And I think when you do have cyclists, you do have good ones. You have some very good ones. But it's such a big country and such I think it's a sporting country. And I could see like for sure that the country itself would just blow up with cyclists with a little bit of a push.
Ele fala muito dessa questão, né, do ciclismo fazer parte da vida das pessoas, que para realmente aparecer campeões, essa possibilidade da gente transitar de bicicleta, de que ele rodava pela cidade dele, cresceu em cima da bicicleta. But do you guys in America, because I lived there in 1995, and I remember some local races. I lived in Pennsylvania. Some local races, but not in my school, not a school program. There were no, do you have that in Colorado? Can you ride for your school? And
yeah, we do. Now you have a middle school.
you have middle school and then out.
Ah, there you are.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're back.
You said that now you have middle schools and then we are out.
Yeah, now we have middle schools and we have high schools that have a cycling league through an organization called NICA, which is National Interscholastic Cycling Association. We have, and it's gained a lot of popularity. It's growing really tremendously, to be honest. We have collegiate cycling. So when you go to university, there's collegiate cycling programs, not NCAA. So they're not the big mainstream sports, but they're club sports and they're pretty robust. I think they have. I couldn't tell you the number of schools now with scholarships, but as an athlete and student, it's possible to go to a university and study and get some sort of scholarship to race bikes.
Ele coloca que agora está crescendo muito esse movimento escolar do ciclismo, que isso já acontece na universidade, mas não é uma modalidade de grande destaque, não faz parte da NCAA, né? Então ela não é uma modalidade de grande destaque, mas sim, hoje o ciclismo já pode te abrir algumas portas na universidade. Jim, most coaches, everyone I think, get at some point overwhelmed by the number of metrics that we have at our disposal today. So,
me
what
included.
do you... Yeah. Eu falei que hoje em dia, né, galera, a gente fica meio que esmagado por essa quantidade, essa fartura de métricas que existem, né? E what are your most valuable metrics and what do you consider most to choose those metrics or something about metrics?
Yeah, I think you're right. There's so much data we can collect, and if it can just be noise and it can confuse you on what to do. I think with data, you have to choose what metrics mean something to you and what metrics you're using to base decisions off of.
Yes.
It doesn't mean you can't track other metrics or other data. I'm just saying that generally as a coach, you have 6 or 7 metrics that mean something to you, and that's what you track and base decisions off of. So I think it's important that if they mean something to you, you use them. And just because one coach uses one thing and another coach uses another thing doesn't mean that either coach are right. It just means that they mean something different to each other. And you as a coach have to figure out what is important to you and what you're going to base your decisions off of.
Ok, great. Ele falou que tem aí realmente que ele também se sente esmagado por essa quantidade de informação e que não necessariamente porque um treinador vê métricas que você não se importa, significa que ele está errado e você certo, né? E que muitas vezes as métricas podem acabar simplesmente se tornando ruído e não afetar a sua decisão, que o que importa, na verdade, é a decisão, né? O que a gente vai tomar como decisão. Can you tell us, can you point some like 5 or 6 very important metrics?
Yeah, absolutely. On a daily basis, I follow everything on the in training piece metrics, CTL, ATL, TSB. That all means something to me. TSS. I also look at kilojoules of rides so that I compare the TSS to the kilojoules. I look at normalized power. I like to look at normalized power and heart rate together. So you see an effort whether the heart rate decoupled, which basically shows you how they're responding to the effort. In the morning, I like to look at HRV and resting heart rate and sleep, primarily from Whoop. There are a lot of really good HRV apps out there. I use Whoop, but that to me is when I wake up and I see an athlete didn't sleep well, I'm almost immediately asking them, you know, how do you feel? Should we try today? Should we not try today? Should we push a day? Things like that. If we're in a training cycle and I know that they're going to be tired anyways, and I want them to be tired, then I'll push. But they all mean something, and there's something that I follow and track and pay attention to. And then I compare workouts a lot. So if I do the same workout over and over and over, I like to compare week after week after week after week.
Yeah, that's great. Ele falou que ele acompanha aí todas as métricas do Training Peaks, CTL, ATL, TSB, olha para a potência normalizada, gosta de correlacionar o TSS com os quilojoules. Pela manhã, gosta de levar o olhar para o HRV, horas de sono, frequência cardíaca basal para tomar alguma decisão. De repente, se o atleta está cansado, mas para estar cansado, ele empurra para o treino. E sometimes I feel that it takes time for us as coaches to build the knowledge upon each metric. So sometimes it seems that makes sense to track even if you don't know what you're going to do with it.
I agree all the time. Before I really bought into HRV and resting heart rate as metrics that I would make decisions off of, I tracked them for a year and just watched. Would take individual performances that I thought were standout, and then I would look at what HRV and resting heart rate and sleep had to do with it the week of. And almost every single time that when they had a great week of high HRV and low resting heart rate and good nights of sleep, they would have a peak performance. And I'm like, okay, so there's something there. And in the following year, then I dug into it more. But for me, it can be a 2-year process to buy into a metric and data.
Yeah, thanks. O que eu falei para ele é que muitas vezes a gente vai rastrear uma métrica, pessoal, para a gente começar a entender mais, poder sentir o que é a métrica. E aí ele concordou com a minha colocação e falou que usou o HRV por 1 ano, simplesmente observando, para aí então poder ter a capacidade de tomar as decisões dele com base no HRV. Jim, first of all, is it possible for, in 2020, to become an elite athlete, mountain bike or time trial or even road cyclist without a power meter?
Man, I don't know anybody that does. I'm sure it's possible, but I don't know anybody that does.
Okay, so you rely a lot on power to build your training strategies and your racing strategies.
For sure, I wouldn't do it without power.
Ok. Eu perguntei se ele vê a possibilidade de hoje, em 2020, a gente ter algum atleta de elite em alguma das modalidades que não treine o ciclismo. Ele falou que acha que sim, mas não conhece ninguém que faça isso e que usa muito a potência para definir estratégia de prova. Do you use best bike splits a lot to plan for races, for time trials, or even mountain bike races?
And road races.
And road races.
I use best bike split all the time. It's a spectacular tool. It's quality input in equals quality output out. So it takes a little bit of time to learn it and has a little bit of a learning curve. But once you use it and you begin to understand how it works, it's an incredible tool, and it's an incredible predictor of performance.
That's great. Eu toquei se ele usa muito o Best Bike Splits, que é um dos programas. Best Bike Splits is already artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah. It'd be a very early model of it. So it's very early model decisions for you, but it will certainly forecast a performance.
Ok, great. Que é um programa que é o princípio de uma inteligência artificial para simular estratégias de prova. And do you also use the archive of your simulation to train, to practice the output for like a time trial? Do you do that?
Yeah, I have. For Kristen Armstrong in Rio, we saw that when we saw the course, we wrote it. We understood what the first 10K were going to be like, and we made a tactic around that first 10K. And ultimately ended up replicating intervals in her hometown of Boise, Idaho, that was super similar to that course. So that when she was in Rio and on that course, she had done, I don't know, in the neighborhood of 15 workouts, 20 workouts that year that had been almost that identical 10K. But we pulled that straight off of Training Peak, or off of Best Bike Split, and then built a structured workout in Training Peaks with it.
That's amazing. Eu perguntei para ele se ele usa uma ferramenta do Best Bike Splits, que é gerar a distribuição da potência da prova como um arquivo para poder treinar. E ele colocou que a campeã olímpica do Rio 2016 no contrarrelógio, ele usou essa estratégia e ela repetiu os 10 km iniciais da prova por pelo menos 15 vezes antes da prova. You already touched upon the decoupling, and I think, I don't know, but my feeling is that decoupling, I don't know for time trial, but for triathlon, it's a really nice way to find your target, your normalized power target. I can push this far. How do you use normalized power for, decoupling for time trial? And is it also so important for mountain bike races? Can you have a look upon that?
For time trial, I really use it in the intervals themselves. So as you repeat intervals over and over and over, you can see the level of adaptation, and if they're extremely well adapted to the effort, then you don't see any decoupling. As they fatigue, then you start to see the decoupling, and then you can hone in on the number of efforts you should be doing at that intensity.
That's great.
For mountain biking, especially mountain bike racing, you can look at the decoupling on a lap-by-lap basis. So if there's 7 laps of a World Cup race, you're going to see a massive decoupling as the rider comes unraveled. But that's mountain bike racing. Essentially what you're trying to do is just push that further and further towards the finish. You can't, it's inevitable that it's going to happen, but the longer you can put that off, the better paced you are.
Yeah, that's what my thought was, because in triathlon, we still have to run. So it's a clear target. And in mountain bike, my thoughts were like, okay, we can push. Seeing it going up, it might be a good sign that they did the most that they could, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Ok. A gente estava falando um pouco do PWHR e pela segunda vez ele tocou da importância de repetir. I'm telling them about it, because the first time that you said that, I did not translate, but it's the second time that you touched upon repeating the workouts. And we see the amateur athletes hating to repeat. you ask them to do something this Monday, and then when you ask them to do the same thing on next Monday, they're like, oh, you're not changing my plan, I want to do something new. And it was the second time that you touched upon the importance of repeat, right? Então, ele falou de repetir, e aí ele usa o PWHR, a dissociação da frequência cardíaca pela potência, em treinos que ele repete. E quando ele vê uma adaptação do PWHR, provavelmente é o momento de aumentar o número de repetições, talvez alongar um pouco o estímulo. E para as provas do mountain bike, isso no caso do treinamento do contrarrelógio. Para as provas do mountain bike, essa oportunidade de comparar o decoupling e o PWHR volta após volta. Ok? Also something that I feel that bothers a whole bunch of coaches is finding the Holy Grail of FTP. Everybody, like, sometimes I see coaches struggling because they want to find the number to, you know, oh, this is the FTP, now I'm done, I found it. And I think it's something so that you have to be sensible. You have to have feeling to find the target. Can you give us insight on how to find this magic number? Holy number.
Yeah, you know, I actually do. I do less testing than almost anybody I know. And I do less testing primarily. Okay, we're back. You said that you do not too many testings. No, for me, the lab is terrible. Nobody likes to go to the lab and test. It doesn't mean you won't get good information. You'll get good information. But just the process of it is difficult. And I feel like we get 300 days of power files a year. And I'll do 2 by 20 minute LTs all the time, lactate thresholds, just basically to confirm my FTP numbers. But I don't live and die by it. So if I write an FTP workout, it'll be 95 to 105%. So you're basically going to go to your threshold and you're gonna sit there. Some days it'll be a little bit higher, some days a little bit lower. Not every day can be a world-class training day. We would love to all have world-class training days, then we'd be uber confident and sure of ourselves, but that's just not how it works. So I give a range and we'll press on that. And as somebody becomes fit, is progressing, you get the FTP updates on Training Peaks anyways. Then I just update them all as the season goes on. I think I probably have more of a challenge lowering FTP in the off season. Like how far do you lower it?
Okay,
nobody wants to go do a 20-minute effort. So you're just saying, okay, I'm gonna back this off 15%, and more or less that's right.
Ok, that's great. Ele já coloca que ele não é um treinador que testa muito, que ninguém gosta de ir para um laboratório. Ele acredita que a gente tem 300 arquivos de treino por ano para o Training Peaks fazer as avaliações. Ele usa uma sessão de treino com 2 estímulos de 20 minutos constantemente na temporada, então fica bem claro que para ele o teste basta. E quando o sistema capta uma mudança de limiar, você tem o alerta do sistema, que a maior dificuldade que ele encontra é na hora de abaixar esse alvo. One question that a good friend of mine asked was that, and he is also a great coach. He coaches a Red Bull athlete here, Igor Amorelli, a very big name for Ironman. And he asked if you were ever surprised by a power file, by a performance that you did not see it coming. Yeah, something like a breakthrough big time.
Yeah, all the time. And my very first question is, did you calibrate your power meter? I always want to know that I can trust the data.
Okay.
But yeah, when you get those days, it's spectacular, right? You're just like, yes.
And do you feel that it's possible to get those days staring at the numbers, or you have to break the chain and go by feel and just push to be able to have a breakthrough? Is it possible to have a big breakthrough staring at numbers? é possível a gente conseguir subir de degrau, de patamar, se a gente estiver preso olhando aos números?
I think it depends on the athlete. Some athletes are motivated by the numbers and some aren't. So I think it really depends on the athlete. I think you typically see the big numbers through performances anyways, in races where you have no control. You have to follow the group or you don't. And you follow the group and you made it, and then later you look at the power file and you're like, holy crap. So I think it's both cases, but I do think that it's possible to have those breakthroughs in training, looking at the power meter, but I think it's probably more likely that they happen in competition.
Ok, great. Eu perguntei se é possível, né, alçar de patamar, e ele falou que tem as duas situações, que tem atletas que se motivam, que é possível sim ter um breakthrough olhando essa subida de degrau para os números no treino, mas é muito mais comum na competição, rodeado de atletas e com muito mais motivação. With all this benefit of power, we have the debate of ending the possibility for professional riders in like Tour de France to look at the numbers. How do you see the future of cycling without like radio and power numbers? Just carnage?
Yeah, I don't think it'd be any problem. Having been in the car before, I know that the guys listen very little to what you have to say anyways. They do exactly what they're going to do. And if you ask any pro rider, what's your power? Without them looking at the power meter, they can almost tell you to the number. So I don't think it changes anything. It's fun for conversation and debate, but it doesn't change the race.
Ok, great answer. Eu perguntei se a gente tem a possibilidade de algum dia ver a potência ser tirada do ciclismo, e ele falou que na verdade não muda nada, porque os ciclistas, ele falou que já esteve no carro algumas vezes, e os ciclistas não escutam muito do que ele está falando, do que as pessoas estão falando, e além disso já tem a percepção e sabem exatamente qual a potência estão realizando a cada momento, né? Ok. What do you think it's most important to become a great cyclist? It doesn't matter, because you've been through all disciplines: track, time trial, road, mountain bike. How do we build a good cyclist? What the TSS should look like? More volume, more intensity, how to balance those things?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Because it's really it's a combination of all that makes a great cyclist, right? I like to use an analogy of painting a masterpiece, and a really skilled artist will start to paint on a blank canvas. Each artist may start in a different place. They choose. There's times where the canvas can be really ugly, but in the end, when it all comes together and there's layers and layers and layers and layers of paint upon layers of paint, and they step back, then you have this beautiful masterpiece. But getting to that masterpiece can be painful. It can be ugly. It can be easy. It can be rewarding. There's times where the vision just flows, and there's times where it doesn't. So I always like that analogy of painting and a masterful painter painting a masterpiece, because it just takes time, and there's a million ways to go about it, and each artist will do it differently. There's not a wrong way or a right way, but ultimately you end up with this beautiful portrait.
Yeah, great. Ok, ele faz a correlação paralelo com um artista pintando um quadro, né? Cada artista começa de um lugar do quadro, cada artista se expressa de uma forma, em vários momentos a coisa fica feia, denota sofrimento, mas ao final cada um pinta o seu quadro. Então ele acredita muito nessa questão das camadas sendo adicionadas, sem esse olhar para uma determinada ordem de camadas para que a coisa aconteça se tornando realmente uma obra de arte, né? Muito interessante. Very nice the correlation between the art and all right. And it's also so important to build up the athlete's mind And I thought it was great that you and Kate discussed about gratitude, and I thought it was amazing. I have seen the VFTP, the Vanity FTP, but I've never heard about the MFTP, just the MFTP on WKO, but not the M of the Mind FTP. So, and what can you tell us? How can you teach the athlete to tolerate suffering?
Well, they call it's an endurance sport because you have to endure. That's a general requirement in this sport. But how much you can endure is up to you, and it's up to how much you're pushed. I find it really interesting. Human beings, we are highly adaptable to almost anything, which is probably why we've taken over this planet. But if we're stuck in a tin box as a prisoner of war, we can absolutely survive in it. Vice versa, if we get accustomed to staying at the Four Seasons hotel every time we travel, we start to believe we should stay in Four Seasons. So we're just a really highly adaptable species. And you just have to, as a coach, you have to help your athletes understand how much they can take on, how much they can endure. At times you have to challenge them, and sometimes you just have to show them how far they can go, and then they start to believe it themselves. I'll let you translate that. That was a lot.
Okay. Yeah, no, but it was great. Ele falou que como seres humanos a gente é super adaptável, né? O ser humano é capaz de viver em uma solitária, em uma prisão mínima e se adaptar a isso. Ele faz essa analogia do hotel, se a gente só se acostuma com hotel de luxo, a gente passa a aceitar que esse é o lugar, essa é a nossa condição. Então ele está aí o tempo todo na questão de que o ser humano se adapta. Então as escolhas de adaptação, de alguma forma, estão na nossa mão.
Yeah, and with athletes, I'll do, through the training cycles and training blocks, you're building them up. They're taking on a little bit more. But I find with athletes, there's always a time where you have to show them how far they can go. And I'll do this sometimes at the end of training blocks where they've done 2 weeks, 3 weeks hard, where we've simulated a stage race, or we've done something that's created a lot of load, and then I'll give them the nastiest hard workout very last. So like a 5x5 VO2, or 3x3x3, or something that's just miserable. And you'll see how they react to it. They'll either embrace the challenge and hit it head on, or they'll start whimpering and whining. But I never intervene. I let them figure out what they're going to do with it, and then we'll talk about it. 9 times out of 10, they'll get through the workout. It may not be pretty, it may not be even great, but they'll get through it, and then through the process, they'll learn that they can actually go further than they thought they could.
That's great. Yeah. Ele fala que ele empurra os atletas no treino. Inclusive, ele cita pra gente o exemplo de uma sessão de 5 por 5 minutos aí no VO2 máximo, né? Que é uma sessão bem dura e que, ao passar a sessão, quer dizer, empurrando o limite do atleta para sentir um pouco mais de desconforto, um pouco mais de dor, ele não intervém. Ele deixa a coisa acontecer e depois senta para conversar e discutir isso com os atletas. And how does gratitude can play a role on building up a tough mind? Como que a gratidão pode ter um papel ao construir uma mente forte?
I think of mental energy as it's like you have a gas tank in your head. You can spend so much mental energy throughout the day or through a course of time before you have to rest. If you spend it thinking about negative thoughts, or you start playing the what if game, what if this, what if that, and you go down this negative path, you're burning that mental energy. You're emptying that fuel tank on nothing. Kate actually is the one that got me to start thinking about gratitude, and she always has had a gratitude journal. She wakes up and journals, and she would tell me about it, and I would listen and kind of shrug my shoulders like, great. If it helps you, great. And then I found myself being negative, going down the road of being negative. And I just literally said out loud to myself, I'm grateful that I have this opportunity to do this, blah, blah, blah. And my mindset started, like, immediately changed. I was like, I felt positive, and I didn't entertain those negative thoughts anymore. And I sort of laughed, like, but I kept practicing it. And I had a pro male cyclist who later last year, last fall, told me that he started a gratitude journal. He's like, Jim, I know you're going to think this is stupid. He's like, but I've been practicing gratitude. And I was like, actually, I don't. And we had this conversation. At the end of the year, we did this review, and we were talking about his training, his season, his performances. And it dawned on me, it was like, you know, when did you start the gratitude journal? And he said something like November 1st. I don't remember the exact date. But I'm like, all your really good results this year came after you started that practice. I was like, there has to be something to it.
That's great, yes. Ele falou que a gente tem um tanque de combustível mental, né? Que a nossa fonte de energia é limitada. E toda vez que a gente entra nesse buraco do e se, da dúvida, a gente está queimando essa energia indo para uma espiral negativa. E que a Kate Courtney foi quem apresentou para ele a possibilidade desse diário da gratidão, né? E aí ele coloca que um atleta profissional de ciclismo também começou a fazer esse diário, comentou com ele, achando que ele ia achar bobo, e ele validou a proposta e puxou nos resultados que nesses momentos, quando ele começou a fazer o jornal, começaram a surgir os melhores resultados. And somehow you can measure the effect of all this gratitude and positive thinking on HRV and on total load, right?
Yeah, totally.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. E agora a gente consegue medir isso no HRV pela carga total. Ok, Jim, just to finish, can you give us some tips on books for our peers to read and to get some knowledge?
Yes, I love to read. I don't actually love to read. I love to listen to books. So I listen to books all the time. A few books that I've read recently that I liked. A book called Relentless by Tim Grover. Tim Grover was a physical therapist and a strength coach that worked with NBA athletes, primarily Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, LeBron. It's a different view into sports psychology and mindsets. It's a little bit dark, but it really will show you what those characteristics and those characters are like.
Very competitive, right? Yeah.
Very.
Okay, and last question. Thank you so much for your time. What tips can you give me and my friends coaches in Brazil on drawing the line between following our instincts, our feelings, and relying maybe even blindly or like dumb on numbers? What's the line between, how can we learn to draw the line between numbers and feeling?
Yeah, well, numbers don't have feelings. So they are what they are, but they don't always tell the whole story. They don't tell the complete story. Vice versa, you can make numbers tell any story you want them to tell. So while you have numbers and they're factual, you also have a lot of instinct, and you have a lot of knowledge and experience yourself as a human. And you have to trust that sometimes. If something seems right, then trust it. And if something seems wrong, then also trust it. And then go back and look at the numbers later to see if that instinct was right or not. I think more of the times than not, our instincts are actually correct, and we get talked out of them because the data said this.
That's great, yeah. Ele coloca que o número não tem sentimento, né? E que a gente realmente deve olhar para o nosso instinto, né? Porque muitas das vezes esse nosso instinto pode estar certo e depois os dados vão confirmar tudo isso. Então, quer dizer, no frigir dos ovos está nas nossas mãos. Jim, thank you so much for your time. It was a great pleasure learning a little bit more.
It was my pleasure.
All right. And hope to see you again as soon as possible.
Yes, absolutely.
Best regards. Thank you, Jim.
There. I hope I see you in Rio.
All right. Thank you, Jim.
All right. Cheers. Have a good night.
You too. Ok, galera, excelente. Vou tentar deixar gravado o Papo Cabeça no YouTube. O Vaguinho depois vai subir também para o YouTube do Mundo Tri. Papo bastante interessante com essa lenda do treinamento aí, né? Uma referência do ciclismo mundial, ok? Muito obrigado a todo mundo que assistiu. Espero que eu tenha conseguido trazer um pouco do que ele colocou. Às vezes as frases são longas e a concentração para tudo isso, né? Mas para mim realmente foi uma oportunidade tanto. Obrigado, Vaguinho. Obrigado aos amigos aí que assistiram. Boa noite. Vamos tranquilo, seguro. Já tudo isso está passando. Valeu, galera. Muito obrigado. Um abraço.